Hi, this is Gautameet Bhatia, and you're listening to episode 4 of the Mindful GB podcast. Today, I'm extremely grateful to be joined by Chirag Arya. There's no need for an introduction, let's get right into this episode. So, when I was researching for this episode, one of the things I came across was your LinkedIn profile. And from that, I saw there were 4 words that you described yourself with, which were teacher, entrepreneur, engineer, and a student. So, the three of those I completely resonate with. I understand why they're there. This aspect of student, what's the reason behind you being a student? Is it that, throughout we have to keep learning and we can never stop learning, or what's the thought process behind the word
So,
student?
Gautam, hi, thanks for having me on the show. Pleasure. So, the first point is got a bit of a cold. Sorry about
No
that.
worries.
The first point is my LinkedIn profile hasn't been updated for 10 years now. All right. It's a learning. Please keep your LinkedIn profile updated.
Right.
You don't know who's seeing it, who's watching it, right? But to your point, you got to be a student every year. So I spend about a couple of hours every day reading podcasts, reading books, seeing online courses. I'm actually learning right now as you speak. I'm learning AI. I'm pretty good at coding. I love to code.
Right.
All right. So anyone who's used our platform for the test, it's coded by us, by me.
Wow.
Right. So we're learning AI, and I think AI has a lot of uses in the future in education. But it's a steep learning curve. So that's what I'm doing next, right? However, the LinkedIn profile was actually made because I was applying to HBS for my MBA, and I was working for Deloitte at that time. So those were everything I added on. What would look good on my profile if my MBA coaches or MBA admissions look at my LinkedIn profile, right? For students, admission officers do look at LinkedIn profiles, so keep it updated, use keywords. They are very, very important. Make sure they're in sync with your application. If there's something in your application which is not there on your LinkedIn profile, please add it, right? That's how they vet it. So if you have a really grand work experience on your resume, but it's not reflected on your LinkedIn profile, that goes against you.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So just a few feedback points on the LinkedIn profile.
So in 2005, you decided to pursue your undergrad at Georgia Tech. And right now, as we're talking in 2023, I feel it's quite common for students to, go to America or go overseas for their undergrad. In 2005, when you were applying, what was the thought process? Because I'm assuming it wasn't that common to probably go to America to pursue your undergrad.
It was actually pretty common back in the day. It's been common, right? The difference was there were less number of students going abroad, but whoever did go abroad, they were clustered. So it felt very common. My aim wasn't to go abroad. We couldn't afford to go abroad, right? So my aim was I was a teacher's son. We didn't have the financial freedom to go abroad. It was IITs. So we would study 12 hours a day to get into IITs, right? Our dream was IIT Bombay,
Right.
IIT Delhi. When I gave the mains in the advanced, I couldn't get into IIT Bombay. Okay, got the other IITs,
That's-
which was a good achievement. But at the same time, I'd applied to Georgia Tech and about 10 other schools. I gave my SET and applied to see what's out there. And for every one of them, I applied with financial aid. Right? Some schools did offer financial aid, but I still wrote to them saying I'm academically very good and I can't afford it. Georgia Tech was one who came back. Out of 10 schools, 6 came back who offered 100% financial aid.
Oh, wow.
So Georgia Tech came and said, we'll uh, pay for your tuition, pay for your housing, pay for your travel.
Oh, wow.
Right? We'd like to get you. And even though even right now, when you go to Georgia Tech's profile, they say we don't give financial aid to international students, but I know they do. Right?
You have to ask for it.
You got to ask for it and you got to justify it.
Right.
So when that came in, like any other 18-year-old, I'm like, okay, I want to go abroad.
Right.
And that was my journey
Right.
to go. Yeah.
So what do you think, like, as you said that there's a culture behind studying for 12 hours to crack the mains and the advanced to get into IIT, which is the college of dreams for a lot of us. What do you think is the difference between the work ethic required to get into an IIT or the work ethic required to get into Stanford? Because the things that you have to do in order to get into both of these, though they are amazing colleges, it's completely different paths, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
The challenge is to get into IIT, you know what you got to do. Okay, you need to
Right.
clear 2 tests, right?
Right.
The ways of the advanced, right? To get to Stanford is less clear, right? And it's a black box.
Right.
That becomes a challenge. If kids knew what they had to do to get to Stanford, and this is exactly what you got to do, there'll be
Yeah.
a lot more students applying for it.
Yeah.
So getting to Stanford gets difficult because it's more art than science. Getting to IIT is completely science, right?
Yeah.
So when you know exactly what you got to do, you can push yourself further because you know that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
You can benchmark yourself. It's like, for example, the SATs. You know, you need to get a 50, for example.
Right.
So you know how far you are, and you got to work harder. Getting into a college is just not academic grades, and
Right.
at times, and that's the challenge for students and parents. It feels like a black box where you absolutely have no idea what you got to do to get in, and you feel it's luck at times, right? And that's what makes it harder, or it feels harder out there. But yeah, so that's the unique challenges.
But then studying to like locking yourself in the room, studying 12 hours, like you're saying that you got into IIT Delhi, if I'm not wrong.
No, I did.
Right.
In our time, IIT Delhi and IIT Mumbai
Right.
was 1 and 2, but then
Right.
you had the Kharagpurs and the Chennai
Yeah.
and everything else. The challenge is, right, that's all we did.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you go to school, you come back
Right.
at 4 o'clock, you have your classes, you have your SAT. We didn't have any of that.
Hmm.
So, 12 hours may seem a lot, but that's all we did, right? From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The IB students, a lot of them have as hard, as rigorous a schedule. The basic difference is we had no distractions. So we had no iPads, I had no phone. We had no phones at that time, right? We had a simple calling phone and a text message. We didn't have an iPad. We only had TV, no
Yeah.
Netflix, right? So we had less distractions, right? So the distraction right now, what happens is, and I've actually seen this since 2010 when I've come back, the attention span of students have decreased,
Right.
and are decreasing as we go on.
Especially
that's the
because of
challenge.
short form content like reels
Exactly.
and shorts.
Exactly. Short form content or even distractions, right? So, for example, what I call is when you're studying, suddenly a message pops up, or WhatsApp pops up,
Yeah.
or Instagram pops up, or you see a small YouTube short video
Yeah.
for 1 minute, but
Yeah.
you're distracted.
Completely.
Right, completely distracted, and that's so so we call it interrupters, right? So what we actually in the advertisement world, what they do with Instagram, the ads are called interruptions,
Right.
So what they try to do is who can actually interrupt you and take your attention in, and you don't scroll down, right? So everyone's trying to interrupt you right
Yeah.
now with every type of content, and they're succeeding. So that gets your attention span lower. When we studied, we were focused, right? And that's the basic difference I see.
What did you learn from the whole 2 years, is it?
2 years.
Of studying like extremely hard for the exam? Was it, do you learn things outside of the sole content of the, do you learn, is there like a sense of discipline that you gain or some?
See, this is very, very important, right? What are you going to understand? Why are these top companies picking up students from universities? Is that because they have skills that they've learned that are useful for them at work? No, So if you look at Apple, they're going to train you when you come on ground. They're going to teach you, right? But what they try to see is that these kids have come to university, okay, and spent 4 years of their life and got good at something by just doing it again and again, and not worrying too much about what the outcomes are. Like just sitting and doing the same task for 4 years and getting good at that. So when they
Right.
come to a workforce and they get routine tasks, they'll stick through it and they'll do it, right? The same is for our 2 years at IIT. So it's not about what you learned. It's about we had a task,
Right.
and could we do that same task for 365 days a year for 2 years of our life without questioning, is this something for us? Right? And just getting through it. And that is a very important skill at times, is
Right.
to do things and do it again and again, repeatedly every day
Right.
for 2 years or for whatever time, and get good at that. That's actually what high performance athletes speak about, is doing the same thing daily, right? Which for decades, that's a skill they actually inculcate.
Right.
The same with academics. Same with the SAT. We try to see kids students do the same thing, which is boring enough every day for week on week for 16 or 18 weeks. Can they do 20 tests without actually worrying about or questioning why am I doing this? So that's what I learned, right? Which was important. Yeah.
So after completing your degree at Georgia Tech, you worked for 2 years at Deloitte as a business analyst.
And that's actually a mistake I made, right? So I had offers of Apple and Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
But at for many 22-year-olds, it's all about traveling. It's all about the financial world. It's all about hotels. And that's what consulting does, right? You travel 4 days a week to a different city to work with at a company's office, and you come back. So it's more glamorous life.
Right.
And after 4 years of doing technology, you want to change.
Right.
However, looking back, I should have worked on my skills, which is I should have been able to work at a company which would have helped me develop my software or hardware skills, to inculcate my skills before I jumped into the business world, right? So what I keep telling students is, a lot of them want to jump into an MBA, right? I'm like, wait, inculcate your skills, and then you can inculcate your business skills later.
Right. So why did you decide after working for 2 years at Deloitte? Why did you decide to return to India and start a business?
You actually hit a wall after 2 years, and then even for all these consulting companies, Deloitte, McKinsey, BCG, Bain, either after 2 years you do an MBA and you come in and you become a consultant, or you then go on and do whatever else, right?
Right.
At that time, I was applying to the Harvard, the Stanford my MBA, right? And I just couldn't justify spending 2 more years in the academia,
Right.
because eventually I wanted to come back and be an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I decided to come back and be an entrepreneur, right? And that was what I decided. That
Was that your plan always to
No.
become an...
my plan was to settle in the US.
Right.
Was always. I never meant to come back. But you got to be open. You got to keep evaluating. Right? In 2011, when I came back, India was actually, more so now, India had a lot of opportunities. Right? India was a growing economy. There was a huge technology at that time. There was a huge implementation of technology. Right? I personally missed a lot of the boats because I could see the financial movement happening, where the digitizing of the economy. Right now, India is the highest, the number of transactions in India digitally
Digital,
is more than the next 5 countries combined, right? In 2011, that was 0%. It was actually just starting off, right? So there was a lot of opportunity in India, and that's going to happen for the next 20 years,
Right.
right? So for me, I thought India, apart from emotionally, was as an entrepreneur, gave me a lot of opportunities to be able to explore.
Right. So in 2011, was it you decided to come back and start AP Guru? What was your thought process? Like, was it something you had been planning for a while, or was it like it just popped into
Honestly,
your
it
head?
was just a 1-year solution, right? Come and teach a few kids,
Right.
get some money, and then start a tech venture,
Right.
So that was my plan. I had a 2-year plan, right? The plan was I teach till I get a great idea, right? Again, one more learning for all the young people, right? If you want to get into a sector, you need to get into it like day one, right? You got to get your hands dirty. You can't say I'll wait for a great idea, right? So that's what I did, but I spent 2 years on APU at that time, hoping to get into technology.
Right. So then, how did it evolve into what it is today?
A lot of learnings actually. If you like check my profile, if you just Google my name, you'll see
Yeah.
I've done a tech venture as well.
Yeah, you've done ichef.
ichef
Yeah.
and so I did try. I still dabbled. 2013 to 16, I raised money. We had good scale. We failed, right? And then so at that time I got back into education in 2016, and then I said, okay, now this is my future. We're going to focus on AP Guru. So 2017. We're going to focus on AP Guru, and we're going to try to scale up AP Guru.
Right.
And we had a 10-year plan.
Oh.
All right. So my sister and me, we created a 10-year plan of what we need to see AP Guru 10 years from now. Of course, COVID came in, changed a few things. But in 2017, we said this is all that we're going to do, at least for the next 10 years. So we said, no matter what, no distractions, 10 years of dedication, right, to our craft.
How's that going?
It's going good. Had some road bumps. You got to evaluate every 2 years. You got to change, but it's going good. So far, I think we are where we want to be. We're doing okay. So COVID did accelerate the process a bit. But a large aim was to be a global education company, and to say, okay, let's use technology to globally tutor students, and COVID accelerated that, right?
Right.
Just to give you an example, so last year we were able to work with about 1,000 students from 15 different countries,
Oh, wow.
which was something which is very good. But before COVID,
Right.
we had 95% Mumbai. right? After COVID, because we were online, use technology, now we are over 30% Mumbai and 70% all over the world, right? I think in the next 5 years, and our vision was to be a global company, we'll
Yeah.
see that we'll be working with kids from
Yeah.
all across the globe. So, and that helped. That helped to have a plan and helped to settle everything down, saying whatever happens, the next 10 years, you're going to focus only on this, right? So, no distractions.
What's the story behind iChef and what happened with that?
So a lot of you might not know iChef, but looking for a tech venture. All right. So what we decided in 2013, and again, a big in learnings you're going to learn, was to start iChef, which was going to be it's called ready to cook, ready to eat market, where we said, okay, we'll send meal kits, gourmet meal kits to people all across the country, where they can cook good food at home, gourmet food at home, right? And that was a tech venture where you go online, you choose whatever you want, and it gets delivered to your house, right? We started off pretty well. When something is small, it works. The mistake you make is what works in a small area like Mumbai might not work in a larger area like India,
Right.
And that's the mistake. We overestimated the difficulties in logistics to be at cold storage to be able to get the food in different cities.
Right.
And that's where we failed. We were able to raise money to create technology and create some operations, but we overestimated the logistical nightmare that time,
Right.
2014, and that's where we failed.
Right. So in 2020, the pandemic came and none of us were expecting it. And the thing is that because of the pandemic, obviously university admissions didn't stop. But there was practically no way for the kids to give the SAT or the ACT. And then because of the pandemic, the SAT and ACT was optional. And then some universities decided to continue keeping SAT and ACT optional. So, do you think, with the fact that SAT and ACT, I feel, is maybe one of the main things that AP Guru offers, SAT and ACT preparation? How do you think that in the coming years, if by chance, SAT and ACT or standardized testing is phased out, is it like what's your plan with that?
And that's actually a good point, right? So COVID showed us that the SAT and ACT was something that might not last for too long, right?
Yeah.
It might last, might not. So we can't dedicate our entire business or focus. So right now we are 100 full-time members at EP Guru, right? You don't see most of them. They're all sitting at Marine Drive. There's 75 people who are teaching from home.
Right.
You as a student will not see all of them, right? But we have a responsibility for those people, and we couldn't actually focus only on the SATs and ACTs. Second, we knew there's a lot of competition in the SATs and ACTs, especially if you're going online. In every city in the world, there's competition, right? So we had to think more broader. So in 2020, we started academic tutoring, and that is IB tutoring, A-level tutoring, AP tutoring, and the IGCSE tutoring. A lot of this focus was students where parents could not send their students to classes in America and Dubai because they can't drive them, they're all working. Right? So you can't drive kids after school to a classroom, they didn't have drivers, right?
Right.
So that became our key target markets. And that's how we started. Then we said, okay, so you're going to identify where markets are and how do you approach them. So that's how we started. And now 60% of our revenue is not SAT, ACT.
Oh, wow.
It's actually academic tutoring. And a lot of that is actually students in the US. We have 150 kids in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, all online, and all be learning from us. 80% A-level tutoring or IB tutoring. Right, so we provide one-on-one tutoring for those students, and our tutors also are not physically at a center.
Right.
We also hire tutors from all across the country. Right. So we have a lot of our online tutors from Kerala, from West Bengal, from Delhi, from Woodstock. So all of these places, right? And they would teach. They would teach students right now. That's what we're focusing on. Our focus is, can we go to key markets and teach online one-on-one academic tutoring and SAT and ACT as extension as well. But that's where we see our growth as well.
Right.
Yeah. So we're less dependent on it right now.
So how did you start getting students from America and UAE? Like, what was the whole process like?
We had existing students who did SET and ACTs with us from those places, right?
Right.
And we just asked them to do a trial class on whatever else they wanted help with. That's it. And then a few kids came in, they were happy. The other kids came out. That's number one. Number two, we reached out to counselors. So we reached out to counselors in Dubai. Every counselor was about us,
Oh, wow.
right? So we just did propagation, saying this is what we do. Are you open to actually, if you have a student who comes to you who needs IB math help, right? Can you promote our name? And ask them for a trial class. And that's all they would do. Right.
So the target market is not Mumbai, because the thing is here there's a lot of other options available, or are you trying to get kids from Mumbai as well for, you know, IB, A level?
We actually not. I never had asked you. I never told you about it too, right? So we're not looking at Mumbai for academic tutoring.
Right.
We're looking at academic tutoring mainly at locations where you cannot drive your child to school, to classes, right? So they have to generally go after online tutoring.
Right.
And then we want to be one of the options for online one-on-one, right?
Right.
In Mumbai, for example, there are tutors everywhere. You can actually go in for a physical location and do tutoring. So our value add is reduced out there, right? So we do have students. We have students of your school who do IB tutoring with us. We have 50 kids already this year who do IB tutoring from Mumbai with us. We have more than 180 kids in India who do IB tutoring with us.
Right.
So we do have students, but
That's not your target.
That's what we're looking to market ourselves to. We're looking to market ourselves to countries where we know they need online tutoring.
There's recently been a lot of debate with the SAT and ACT, because some people have been terming it as classist, and the debate has been that it's easier for kids who have access to better resources
100%.
to do well on the SAT and ACT.
Yeah, but that's why you're paying us.
Right.
That's how it works, right? And that's just not SAT, that's any market. You look at counseling, you look at admissions, you look at SATs, you look at IB. There's always going to be a ecosystem being created to help students achieve their goals, right? Because it's financially so rewarding right now, you're getting smart people in the business. And when you get smart people in this ecosystem, they will create unique solutions to help their clients or students to get unfair advantages, right? So it's actually true. And what the California state did, they said, okay, there'll be no SATs by law at any public college. That's a great move because they're leveling the playing field. Right. Where you are in Mumbai, all the students who are applying abroad in Mumbai have access to SAT classes, right? So it's a level playing field. In America, most of the kids are low-income kids. Right, they can't afford classes, so for them it's a big disadvantage compared to the other kids.
Right.
So that's a basic difference in the international markets and the local US market.
So do you think that currently the SAT or the ACT being an integral part of college applications, is it fair?
What is fair? The SAT
It being an integral part of college applications.
See, but the universities need some benchmarking. Right.
Academics can't do that.
Academics have very different boards, right? So they need some benchmarking to help them decide. SAT and ACT is not the only metric they look at. Right? They're looking at many different factors. This is one, and I think it's only one small factor of all the other factors. Right. So that's important. But tutoring does provide an unfair advantage to people who can afford it.
And moving on, what are, like, as you said, there are so many options available for SAT and ACT preparation. So what's the one thing that sets AP Guru apart? Because in the past, almost all the students I've spoken to, even the ones that have been on this podcast who've gone to, amazing colleges, Columbia, Cornell, all of them have said that they've done the preparation at AP Guru. And almost everyone I know, if you're preparing for the SAT, you're going to do it at AP Guru. So what's that sets you all apart from the others, and how have you gone about building this, like, kind of like a brand value, you could say?
I honestly don't know, right? I think there are a lot of providers who all try to do the best possible job, right? I know 4 or 5 in the country, in Dubai, are all trying the best they possibly can. What I think is once you're working with 20 students, okay, this is something for you to understand when you're looking at any business. Once you're doing it yourself, it's fine, you're controlling everything, right? But once you have more students and once you have more clients in any different way, right? It's about the culture you set at your organization, right? So, I mean, for us, that culture is very important. And so that culture is then imbibed by our staff, our teachers, right? So I mean, and that was very, very important for us, right? Simple stuff like when anyone who joins us, they have to go through a manifesto which says, okay, these are the values we believe in, which you need to also believe in, right? And you need to imbibe in any of your classes. So that's patience, right? Number one. There's quality of teaching, there's service. So we have these, again, it's a detailed list that we have. So what happens is, if you truly believe in these values, everyone in your team will also, or the people who are working with you will also believe in those values.
Right.
If they don't, they get weeded out over time, right? So whenever you work with any of our teachers, any of our staff, you'll actually see that they have the same values of patience, of a smiling, of just being happy, giving a positive attitude out. So these basic things are very, very important.
Right.
That's number one. That helps us. Number two is ensuring we are remaining on top of everything that's required for students to do well. Right? That could be curriculum, practice test, anything that can give you an edge. We need to develop that. Right? So we actually have a team who just works on developing resources to ensure students are actually having everything they need to do well.
Right.
Which is again very, very important for us. So that could be technology, that could be curriculum, that could be flashcards, anything that we feel kids need. We got to make sure we do that, right? The difference is most of the other organizations do not spend time in developing resources. They don't have a team to develop resources.
Right.
And that's one thing I actually encourage all the other education institutes to actually hire people to develop resources. Right? Could be teacher training, could be technology, could be curriculum. And that's very, very important.
Like how we have textbooks.
Like how we have books,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
in the future you will see the strategy guides. If you see,
Right.
you'll see the website to give the test. You see all of that as well.
Yeah.
So that plays a very, very key role.
So you spoke that the main, like how you maintained the level that you wanted at your organization was that because after a point when you start scaling, your involvement starts becoming lesser and lesser, and it becomes a part of culture. So how did you form this culture exactly, and how did you scale, like going from small to and now?
No, we did. It happens organically, right? You'll be
Right.
surprised how organically it happens, right? You got to find the right people, okay, and you got to make sure you motivate them and keep them with your team, right? And that's the key skill for us, right? Is you find the right people, once you identify them, do whatever you can, but keep them motivated in your team,
Right.
right? In terms of students, if you do good work, and if you actively spread your word out to the ecosystem, and there is an ecosystem, so you'll be surprised that, for example, for you're a student, but there's an ecosystem of a school,
Yeah.
of a tuition teacher who's helping with IB, of a counselor, of a SAT. So there's an ecosystem. There's a similar ecosystem in each city you go to,
Right.
right? Some global, some smaller, some bigger. If you do good work, you can tap into that ecosystem, right? And that's how you scale up in education organically.
Right.
There are ed tech companies which you heard about, like Byju's and Art Academy. They try to scale up inorganically using the power of marketing, which is
Yeah.
okay, which is how they do it as
Yeah.
well, right? So the different ways to do it.
So you all don't actively market.
We are doing it organically. We don't actively market, right? Because we don't have a product. We are a service-based company,
Right.
right? Like a Byju's has an app, which is a product. So we are a service-based company. And service-based has to be linear
Yeah.
growth, not geometric growth,
Yeah.
right? So you got to take baby steps every year. Yeah.
And your example, and there's lots of people who are like engineers but end up being extremely good entrepreneurs. Why is this present? Because it's so common that engineers become amazing entrepreneurs.
It's pretty simple for me, actually. Engineering teaches you how to take a big problem, breaking it down and solving it bit by bit, right?
Right.
Being analytical, so problem solving, right? And not being overwhelmed by the entire problem. So in other majors, you think of the bigger picture. In our major in engineering, we were taught, take whatever problem, break it up,
Yeah.
and just solve that small part, and
Yeah.
then do it again and again and again and again
Yeah.
till you solve the entire problem, right? And that really helps, right? So you got to be problem solving, and you got to just do one problem at a time, right? It's not worrying about the entire piece. Just go
Right.
bit by bit,
'Cause
day by
then
day.
it's not possible.
You get overwhelmed otherwise. So that's
Yeah.
why engineers do so well. I'm sure other majors do well as well, but in
Right.
engineering, we were taught to be problem solvers.
Right. And as you spoke, you have a 10-year plan. So what's the plan? Like, where do you plan to be by, say, 2030?
Actually, it's the 2027. That's the plan for us,
2027.
right? It's 5,000 kids annually, and working with students for at least 30 different countries in any given year. So that was the goal post we had, right? Goalposts are plans, are goals, right?
Yeah.
But they change. So goalposts might move, might change. That's
Yeah.
fine. But that was a plan we set off in 2017, and I think we're halfway there now.
Right.
So yeah, so we've done all the groundwork, we've done all the basic foundational layers, and now the next 5 years is about actually now trying to scale up organically. So yeah, that's the aim.
Is the future of education all about it being online?
I don't think so. I already. This goes above my pay grade. You got to ask people
Right.
who can see
Right.
bigger pictures more than I do.
Right.
There's always going to be a place for physical learning. I think the primary piece has to be physical learning. You go to a school
Yeah.
after school, because
There's
face
a
to
connect. face
as a connect,
Yeah.
right? There's a physical relationship, as you can see, right? And there's body language.
Yeah.
That can never be replicated.
Right.
Online is a key enabler at times, right? It can enable learning. It's a catalyst. Or it could give access to people who do not have access to that quality. Right? So, for
Right.
example, if you're in a city, we have a lot of students from tier 2 and tier 3 towns in India, right? They don't have access to good quality
Right.
teachers. So for technology, and online becomes a key enabler for them to have a sort of a level playing field.
Right.
It's like the IPL, right? I don't know if you watch cricket, but when I was growing up in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, they were always, cricketers were always from Mumbai, Delhi, Madras, or Chennai, right? The big Bangalore.
Yeah.
The big cities, the big metros, because they had the
Yeah.
infrastructure, they had visibility. But now, since the IPL, you see players from all small towns. Dhoni is a good example of Ranchi, but now you see players from all
Right.
small towns,
Yeah.
right? So that's the same with education right now, right? Only kids from Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore not going abroad. You have kids from the smaller towns going abroad too,
Right.
because they have the resources
Right.
and they have the visibility. So technology has accelerated that process.
Right.
And create a level playing field, which is really good, really heartening to see. So, in fact, nowadays you see more success stories from the smaller towns, from the big universities,
Right.
and not from the metros,
Right.
right? Which is actually a very, very good thing to see. Yeah.
And lastly, what would be your message to students?
Is exactly what I just told you at the very start, right? Don't get overwhelmed, okay? Take in information from all your peers, all your students, right? But that's not orders, right? So take advice, not orders. So and then use your own analysis to decide what's best for you, right? That's number one. So don't try to ape what everyone else has done before you or whatever else is like next to you. Create your own journey, number one, right? Number two, don't be overwhelmed,
Right.
right? Focus on only the weekly things, okay? Focus on week by week, okay? Don't try to get a 42 on 42. Don't try everything on day one, right? Focus on your weekly tasks. Complete your weekly tasks, right?
Right.
And then complete your task next week. Add next week. It's like laying a brick at a time.
Yeah.
Don't look at the entire wall. Just
Yeah.
lay your brick. Okay, that's number two. All right. Number three, prioritize. Okay, prioritize what's the most important thing. All right. I see kids doing so many things. It's like a helter skelter
Yeah,
approach, right?
yeah.
Headless chicken. Prioritize. Figure out what's your number one priority. Number two priority. Once you get that right, then you focus on number three and number four. All right. And fourth is please enjoy the process.
Right.
All right. The best time you're going to have in your life, I know you don't agree or you don't feel it, is being a student, right? You ask anyone who's graduated, and the best time of your life is actually when you're a student. Some of my closest friends right now are still my schoolmates, right? And even now, 20 years later. So, you
Right.
got to enjoy the process and don't be overwhelmed by just saying, okay, what happens if we don't get into X? Get into Y. Doesn't matter,
Enjoy the process.
right? Yeah, enjoy the process and just enjoy the journey.
How important is an aspect of discipline in kids nowadays?
It's everything. It's very, very important.
Right.
Right? I think a lot of kids do have it. A lot of kids lack it. And the kids who lack it need to inculcate that. As I said, the same thing. If you just focus on week by week and make sure you do whatever is assigned this week, you complete it, you'll be okay. Right? And it all comes back to discipline.
And on that note, I'd like to thank Chirag sir for coming out and taking his precious time out to come and record this podcast with me. I'm sure a lot of us gained some extremely valuable insights on what the journey of an entrepreneur is like. What does it take to build something which has such a good reputation? And I'm sure our students can also gain something and learn that, we don't have to stress so much all the time. We can just, we have to enjoy the process while still doing what we are doing, but we don't always have to think of the bigger picture. We have to take it day by day. And I'd like to thank all my viewers and listeners as well for taking their time out and listening to this podcast. Thank you, and see you all again on the next episode of Mindful GB. Thank you.